Recording equipment or gear is something that is essential to the recording process. After all, you need to capture your recordings on something. However, the reason that I talk less about gear and more about songwriting, creating, recording is because in my view, these are the most important parts of recording, and the gear that you're actually using is kind of just the utility you use to capture those great performances. However, you do need something, and in this video, because I've just finished the final mixes and masters of my brand new album, I thought I would take you through what gear I actually used to record all of my sounds into GarageBand iOS. So let's go. Hi, my name is Pete. This is Studio Live today, where I help you create, record, and release your best music. And we are looking at recording today. And before we dive in and I start showing you the gear that I used to record this album, I wanted to reinforce something that I say a lot here, and that is that if you have no gear at all, or if you literally just have your iPhone or an iPad or an Android device or just anything that can capture audio, start recording and capturing audio, because it doesn't matter if you don't have any gear. You can just get started. You have to start somewhere. Everyone starts at zero. I say that all the time. You do need to actually start recording. But once you've done that for a while, you may find that the sound quality you're getting is not matching up to the performances that you're putting in there. And it doesn't mean you have to drop everything and rush out and buy thousands of dollars worth of expensive high-end recording equipment. You just need something that's going to get the job done. And that's what I'm going to show you in this video, is some affordable, good quality gear that I used to create what I think is a really good sound in GarageBand iOS on my iPhone and my iPad. So let's dive into the gear now, and I'll show you what we used here in this recording. Now, the reason that I'm holding my acoustic guitar is not necessarily to show you my acoustic guitar, because it's a Taylor acoustic guitar. I really like my guitar, but whatever guitar you have, if it's producing a good sound, you're going to be able to record that good sound. But the piece of gear that I have, which I've showed before, is my Snark tuner, because the number one thing that I hear on some recordings that just screams out amateur is when your guitars aren't in tune. So if you record guitar-based or any other instrument that needs tuning, tune your instrument. I'm putting this up front because it is the number one piece of gear I recommend. And if you don't buy a Snark tuner, that's fine too. You can use the tuner on your iPhone. You can use any sort of tuner app, but keep your instruments in tune. Use something to tune up before you get started. So that being said, I'll put the guitar away now and we'll jump into the equipment that I've used here. Now, all of the gear that I'm about to show you here, as well as the Snark tuner that I just showed you, are linked in the description of this video below. And for complete full disclosure, some of those links are affiliate links, which means that if you buy a product by clicking that link, by tapping that link and going through and buying that product, they may break off a little chunk of that and send it my way. So if you are in the market to buy any of this gear or any recording equipment at all, check out those links. And if you do go ahead and buy that, you'll be supporting the channel here and helping me to keep creating more of these videos. Now, it may go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. I do all my recording on iOS. So I have my two devices here. I have my iPhone 6S Plus, and yes, I am 3 or 4 generations behind. It tends to be how I roll, but this is an absolutely adequate device for recording in GarageBand iOS, even the most recent version. It still does a great job. And my iPad Air 2. So I recommend an iPad Air or an iPad Air 2 as kind of the minimum iPad that you want to be using for GarageBand in iOS, because you have access to all the latest version and all of the features using one of these. So that's a good starting point, is to obviously have a platform to record onto, but it doesn't matter if you're recording on your PC, your Mac, or anything else. The sort of gear that we're going to be using here is all very similar. It's all USB for the majority part and using some of those standard connections. So you'll be able to use this gear regardless of where you're recording, but I just happen to love and record on GarageBand in iOS. So the next most important thing in my view after an actual platform to record on is an interface to do our analog to digital converting. And in my case, I exclusively used this one, which if you've watched the channel before, you know that I'm in love with my Steinberg UR12 audio interface. To me, it is just the perfect portable solution. It is solid. It is built like a tank. It has an input here, a microphone pre. It's got an instrument input. It's got separate gain. It's got a headphone. It's got the ability to be powered by a 5-volt DC power, and we've got a line out as well there, as well as phantom power for our condenser mic. So this is an affordable one. I can't remember. It's $99, I think, last time I checked. So it's an affordable piece of gear, and it just gives, in my view, the best bang for buck when you're looking for a converter. Now, I've done an entire video on audio interfaces. So the reason I like this one especially is it's USB, like most of the interfaces that are available now, and it's compatible across Mac, PC, and iOS. So there's very few interfaces that have that 100% compatibility, that are class compliant, that are still portable enough to be run from a battery power with a battery pack here and produce a great quality sound. So this one here is my recommendation, the Steinberg UR12. You can get the UR22 Mach 2, which has the 2 complete preamp inputs. The UR44 that I have back here that I use on my PC is also compatible with iOS, so there's a heap of options. I just happen to like the Steinberg range. If you're into Focusrite, if you want to use a Behringer, there's a heap of other options for USB interfaces. This just happens to be the one that I use and recommend because I've had great success, and every track on my new album was recorded using this little baby right here. The second most important thing, again, in my opinion, is microphone. So something to actually record the sound. So I used 3 microphones for this album over the last year that I've been recording it. So this one here is my Samson CO1 large diaphragm condenser, which is a large diaphragm condenser microphone, which means it needs phantom power to run, which we have on that interface there, the Steinberg UR12 that I was using. So I used this for some of my earlier songs before I purchased the microphone I'm talking on right here, which is the MXL 550 large diaphragm condenser. So I'll just bring this one over into shot and show you that one now. And here it is. This is the microphone I use to capture all of my audio for my videos, as well as using it as a good quality vocal mic here for my GarageBand recordings as well. So it is, as I said, the MXL 550 large diaphragm condenser. It actually comes in a set with a small diaphragm, the MXL 551. So it's a really good quality. If you're in the market for a condenser microphone and you're like, I'm not sure exactly what I need, you buy this pack. You've got a large diaphragm condenser, great for spoken word, great for vocals, and great for miking instruments too. So my acoustic guitar, I mic'd up using this microphone 9 times out of 10. Almost every track that you hear is either this mic or this microphone, even on those acoustic guitars and other instruments, and then some of those strange percussions and things that I was doing. I used pretty much these 2 microphones, and they're that versatile that they can capture your vocals, they can capture your guitars, they can capture a whole heap of different sounds. And you can hear that the quality of just talking on this right now is pretty good, and the fact that I use it for everything that I do means that it is that real versatile all-rounder. So they're the 2 large diaphragm condensers, and then down here, you gotta have an SM57. So this is the Shure SM57. These are about $100 microphone as well. So if someone is in the market for a microphone, the first thing I tell them to buy is a large diaphragm condenser, just because you have so much flexibility with that. It can do literally anything. The second microphone I would advise people to buy is a Shure SM57, because again, it's super versatile. The benefit of this is it's dynamic, which means that it doesn't require any power. It's not a condenser microphone. The drawback of that is that if you've got a quiet signal, then you're going to have to boost that, and you can get some noise in your signal doing that. So that's why large diaphragm condenser is great for picking up the clarity and the depth of sound. If you've got like a loud guitar amplifier or a loud sound, or you want to really scream out some vocals, which I did on a couple of tracks, I'll pull out my SM57 and use that one. So they're my microphone recommendations. And again, you don't have to spend a fortune, because I think the pack at the moment is about $70 US for the MXL 550 and 551, and as I said, they're ridiculous quality for what you pay, and you really are at that baseline level. Everything is going to be pretty good around there, unless you're buying an absolute cheapo microphone. And in fact, my friend Patrick over at the GarageBand Guide did a very cool video about buying the cheapest microphone he could find on wish.com. So I'll link to that video up there and down there, because you've got to check that out. And if you haven't checked out the GarageBandGuide.com, Patrick's website and YouTube channel, you must do that as well. Fantastic content over there. Now, while we're on the subject of microphones, I also wanted to show these, which are my JBL, I don't even remember the model number. These are just a standard headset microphone. And the reason I'm showing these is that a lot of the backing vocals I recorded, and you might have seen these in some of the original recording series, were recorded using the headset microphone, which is literally this little tiny microphone that sits up on top of that. And this is just what you use in your headset for your phone calls and for everything else. But if you plug this into GarageBand, you can actually record by monitoring through the earbuds and by recording on the headset mic. It sounds a bit weird until you try doing it. And for things, especially things like background vocals or ambient sounds or things like that, you get a pretty decent quality. So yeah, very general suggestion, but if you've got a pair of earbuds with a microphone, that is a good option to get yourself started before you dive into using something like this. And because it doesn't require an interface, it's all here in this one package and you can record anywhere. I did a lot of my scratch recordings, but even a lot of the final background vocals that were recorded on my iPhone just while I was out and about using my headset microphone here. And while we are talking about headphones, what a great time to talk about my Sennheiser HD280s. These are my absolute favorite pair of headphones. They are the perfect balance between price and quality because they don't cost the earth. They cost more than a very cheap budget pair of headphones, but they are very affordable in terms of if you're just setting yourself up with a nice sort of affordable home studio, this is what I would absolutely recommend. They are closed back, which means that they are great for both recording because you're not going to get a whole lot of bleed coming out through the sound, which means when you're playing back your original tracks and you're saying recording your vocals over the top, you don't want a really loud guitar sound or drum sound coming out. So this will close around your ears and protect that from happening. And they're actually really quite precise. So they're good for doing your mixing and mastering as well if you're doing that on headphones as opposed to monitor speakers, which are obviously a lot more costly. So a good pair of headphones like these Sennheiser HD280 Pros are a definite great addition to any home studio setup. And like any good headphone, they actually come included with an adapter. So you've got your 3.5mm connection here that can plug directly into your iPad or iPhone as long as it's not a 7, an 8 or an X. And I've got another video actually if you're struggling with that concept, if you don't have a headphone jack, there's a cool little USB device that you can buy for very cheap, about $10 on Amazon or eBay, which you can actually use to give yourself a headphone jack via a USB plug through a lightning to USB adapter. We'll get onto that in a little minute, but I'll link to that video as well up and down so you can check that out. But the reason I'm showing you this is that we've got the ability to use this larger, so the 1/4" jack that goes into things like our Steinberg UR12, but we've also got the 3.5mm 1/8" jack that can go directly into our iOS device. Okay, so the final piece to the puzzle is our lightning to USB adapter. So I have two versions here. These are often called the camera connection kit because they were originally designed to connect a digital camera to an iPad or an iPhone, but more often than not, they're just called the lightning to USB cable, lightning to USB adapter. Now, the reason we need these is that to actually output a signal into our iPhone or our iPad that's a USB signal, so a USB interface or a USB microphone, then we need to be able to convert that from standard USB to a lightning connection. Now, you might be asking, can't I just use a regular cable? Well, unfortunately, no. They don't actually create the host interface and all that fancy Apple stuff that I don't really understand. You do need to buy one of these. You can buy cheaper ones, and I've done videos about some of the cheap versions you can get. They work, but they are not great quality and they'll sometimes drop out. So I haven't had the most amount of success with those. But the difference between these two, this one here is your standard lightning to USB. So it doesn't have any bells and whistles. All it does is convert the signal. Or you can opt for the more expensive version, which is the lightning to USB 3 adapter. And this one has the addition, and you can't really see it because I'm zoomed out a bit, but it has an additional lightning port there. What that means is you can plug your USB interface or microphone in this end, you can then connect it to your device, and then you can actually power your device by using the lightning connection. So this is sort of one way to go. You will need one of these. You can also use these in conjunction with something like a powered USB hub. And again, I've got videos which I'll link below about how to do that. And that just gives you the flexibility to use multiple USB devices. So I did that a few times during this process with the USB keyboard, which I'll show you in a moment, as well as my microphone, so I could record and not have to, I didn't do them simultaneously, but it means I didn't have to switch and then completely disconnect and reconnect every time I wanted to go from, say, my MIDI keyboard over to my microphone. So a very handy and in fact essential thing to have is one of these, so a lightning to USB adapter to make sure that you can actually get your signal. So the only time you wouldn't need one of these is if you're using something like an iRig that has a lightning connection, or anything that uses a 3.5mm jack. So if you were just using your headset microphone on your headphones, or if you're just using something that plugged directly in via analog, but anytime you need to do an analog to digital conversion, you will need a way to convert that, and that is where the lightning to USB cables come in to their own. And last, but definitely not least, is my MIDI keyboard here. This is a USB MIDI keyboard, a 49 keys. This is an Evolution E-Keys 49. This one's actually been superseded by a new M-Audio. M-Audio actually bought out this brand, and now they make the E-Keys 49, which is a newer version of this, but it does exactly the same thing. So the reason that I haven't bothered updating or upgrading in the last sort of 5 years is that this does everything I need to do, which is have a USB connection output here, which means I can plug this using my lightning to USB adapter that I just showed, and then I can actually play my part. So any touch instrument in GarageBand, any of your keyboards and your synth instruments, even your bass guitars and some of your world instruments, you can use with this real keyboard. And the touch screen is great for sort of throwing in some quick arrangements, but if you've listened to some of the tracks on the album, or you watched me recording some of those, you'd notice that some of the piano parts are a little bit more intricate, got some syncopated rhythms, they're a lot harder to play. So to be able to have a nice 49 key keyboard here, to be able to connect and to play those instruments is so much better. So this is a very affordable one. I can't remember off the top of my head how much the new M-Audio version costs, but again, I'll link that down in the description. But it's a great way if you're a keyboard player, or even if you're not, to be able to input without using the touch screen. It just gives you a whole bunch more flexibility and control, because you've got things like touch sensitive keys. You can plug a pedal in. So I've got a sustain pedal that I can use with this as well. And it can be powered, this one can be powered independently or USB powered if I use something like the USB hub that I talked about just recently. So another great addition, not essential, not something that you'd rush out and buy, especially if you're not a keyboard player, but if you are, or if you're interested, this is a great way to be able to input sounds into your iPad or your iPhone. So there you go, all of the gear that I used to record this album. Now, as I've already mentioned, I'm not telling you to rush out and buy everything or even anything that I mentioned here. In fact, as I keep saying, if you just have your iPhone or your iPad or any sort of recording device that you can record on, just start recording and get good and start practicing playing, writing good songs, creating and recording, because that is the most important part. And then when you think that you just need a slightly better sound and you need a little bit more quality in your recordings, then that's what I recommend diving into some of this gear. So let's just review all the things that we've talked about here. We've got our iPad or our iPhone, which is obviously our recording platform. We then need a way to connect that with the outside world, which is those lightning to USB adapter cables that we talked about. The Steinberg UR12 or any other USB compatible audio interface that can be used with iOS is going to be the next step, and then something to plug into that, which is of course our microphones. And once again, the MXL 550 is something that I'm completely in love with. My Samson CO1's great, and that brilliant SM57 that is ultra reliable as well. A good pair of headphones will help you monitor your audio and record your audio at a good quality as well. The Sennheiser HD 280 Pros are what I recommend there. So there you go. That's probably only $400 worth of gear, and I'm not saying rush out and spend $400 today or even $100. Really pick and choose what you're going to need that's going to give you the best quality. And as I mentioned at the start, all of those products are, and some others that I've used in the past, are linked in the description below. Those are affiliate links. If you want to help out the channel and you're in the market to buy some of this gear anyway, why not click through those links and take a look at the product? You'll be helping me out and you'll be getting some cool new gear at the same time. That is going to do it for this video. I hope you found this interesting. If you've got comments, questions, or suggestions, drop those down below and I'll see you on the next video. Hey, thanks for sticking around. Now that we've been talking about gear for so long, why don't you check out a video I did where I recorded with no gear here in GarageBand iOS. That's linked down below. You can also subscribe to the channel by clicking on the Studio Live Today icon, or you can head over to studiolivetoday.com for more audio goodness.